All right, the Reds, it's Talking Reds, and Talking Reds today are Ian Ryan and me, Gareth Roberts. You going to Kiev, mate?
I hope so, mate. Could do with those prices being a bit low, I have to say. I saw your
Andy.
I saw your little post yesterday, 10 grand for a room.
You got breakfast though, so you know what I mean?
I didn't know that, to be fair. I didn't realise.
10 grand a night, but they're throwing breakfast in, fucking great set of lads well in. I mean, I presume that's breakfast for everyone in the away end.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
10 grand a night. I mean,
it's unreal.
Yeah, it's gone mad as it always does, and it seems that, you know, UEFA in their wisdom have picked another city that hasn't actually got the infrastructure to hold a final so well in. And there's loads of oddities around this, like there always is around the European final. So, like, it's a 70,000 capacity stadium. Yeah, for this event, for this final, it'll be 63. Presumably that's so they can get massive adverts up everywhere and charge loads of money for adverts. And because, you know, who's asked about actual fans of clubs that might want to go and watch. And I'm sure you all know by now that Liverpool and Madrid have only got sort of 16,000-ish tickets each. And so it just sort of, you know, it's going to go to a ballot. You can register to be in that ballot today. I have done. You're still trying to get on.
I've had a nightmare this morning.
But yeah, 10 grand a night, hotels in Kiev. £394 tickets for the final. That's not even tout prices, that's official.
You know what, that's something that hasn't even really been mentioned, because everyone's talking about how you're going to get there and the price of getting there and all the different routes you can potentially take. But when you look at the actual ticket prices as well, it's fucking scandalous.
Yeah.
And I think I did see something around the percentages of how many are kind of fit into each category. I can't remember now, you might know off the top of your head, but there's a realistic chance that you're going to end up paying something north of 300 quid just for the ticket to get in.
Because you can't choose, can you? It's like, it says like there's no guarantee that what you want you get, and so you may just, you know, if there is none of the cheaper ones left, you could just go, well, yeah, you've qualified, but here's a 394 quid ticket, cop for that, and it's like. So yeah, that's a hard sell at home, I've got to be honest.
It is a hard sell. It is a hard sell. I mean, you're obviously made up to be there, and you don't want anything to kind of tarnish that. The fact that you've got to a European Cup final, it's brilliant. I mean, I was thinking, just kind of driving in, you know, when you're thinking back to like the last one in 2007, you wouldn't have thought, would you, if someone had said to you, you know, because you kind of take it for granted a little bit under Rafa's reign. You think these are just going to keep coming and coming and coming. We've got a great side, we look brilliant, and then it's 11 years goes by, and I mean, if anything, you probably appreciate it even more because we've been waiting for such a long time, so it makes it more special. But when you then hit with some of the prices, I mean, the fact that it's in Ukraine anyway, it's not ideal, is it? I mean, you couldn't think of a worse place really to get to.
It's the last one, isn't it, where it was sort of under Platini's reign, if you like, that this was a venue that has been picked. And what they're saying now is that from here on in, future venues will be decided more on merit, more on, like, you know, can the city actually cope with this as a final rather than other reasons, perhaps envelopes and that. And
I know you've got to share it around a little bit, but when you think of the teams who get to the final regularly in terms of the countries where they're from, surely that's got to be taken into consideration a little bit.
I just think, you know, it's got to be based on infrastructure, so size of stadium, ability to cope with, you know, an influx of fans in terms of hotels, accommodation, transport, all that kind of thing. I think because is it Madrid next year, and then I think maybe it's at Istanbul again soon, back where we won it. Yeah, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense, and I wouldn't say it takes the edge off. Look, everyone's still dead excited.
Of course you are.
You know, permanently getting messages all the time off different sets of mates and whatever, like, how are you getting there, what are you doing, who are you flying with, are you getting the train, are you driving, are you getting a Winnebago, are you going on a coach? There's a coach going from Arkells Lane, you know, 200 quid, drives right through there and back. Like, whoa, where are we going, the bog?
Our kid's getting the coach, you still imagine the bog, oh my God.
Isn't it like, it's 36 hours
I think it's about, he goes on a Thursday night and he gets there like kind of mid-morning on a Saturday. It's moody, that, isn't it?
I remember all the stories, the old stories of you know, getting that special train to Rome.
Yeah, you've seen all the pictures and
like,
stuff.
You know, Dave Kirby's wrote a brilliant book in the a brilliant section of the book. Here we go gathering cups in May, and it's honestly brilliant read, hilarious. But what I loved in that is, like, he goes on about, like, lads just turning up at Lime Street for this absolutely epic mission across Europe. There,
carry a bag full of clothes.
No, just with an apple. Like, is that all you bring them, lads? Yeah, it sounds. It's like brushing your teeth at the same time as eating, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, there'll be all these kinds of stories around this one as well, because you know, UEFA have made it nice and hard for us. So there'll be all kinds of mad ways that people will be getting there. I remember, I think Athens, someone went in a taxi, didn't he?
Delta.
All right,
Any
mate.
chance of Athens, lad?
Yeah. All right, mate. Just outside the Oak Tree. Yeah. Where you're off? Kiev. Can you hang on by the final 6 place and give us a lift back?
I think apparently as well. I mean, I think Madrid are going to struggle because I believe there's a lack of flights, direct flights from Madrid that weekend anyway. So I think there's a good chance they'll send some of those back. I mean, they've been quite spoiled, haven't they, with finals in recent years, and I don't think anyone travels quite like some of the English fans do in terms of descending en masse. You know, when you think of the numbers you took to Athens and Istanbul, certainly Istanbul was ridiculous numbers, wasn't it? So, I mean, I could be totally wrong here, but I'll be surprised maybe if Madrid, the demand is quite as much as Liverpool. I think.
We'll see, won't we?
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll see.
It is interesting hearing where everyone, you know, people are talking about Warsaw, Prague, Berlin, you know, as your stop-off point, if you like, on what is a big journey. Ben Johnson is a big fan of Dusseldorf, or as he calls it, the Dorf. And so he was telling us on the way back from Rome about why the Dorf is boss. So, I mean, look, tell us how you're getting there as well, because, you know, I'm interested to know. Wanted to talk about Rome, the experience of Rome as well. You know, obviously there was the huge build-up in terms of, you know, there was going to be trouble. Italian media saying there was 1,000 hooligans headed there from Liverpool. Our media, if you like, permanently banging on about ultras and stabbings and, you know, threats to safety and all that. Thankfully, it all sort of passed off fairly peacefully. There was only one arrest of a Liverpool fan, and even that has been, I've seen people contesting it on Twitter and saying it was a bit harsh. So, you know, Liverpool fans behaved themselves by and large, and have arrived back safely by and large. So, you know, that's great, and that was, you know, that had to happen really. My experience of it was, you know, it was a little bit mad, sort of getting on those buses, a little bit chaotic at times. When you finally got on them, it did take a long time to actually get to the ground. Then when you got to the ground, there was big queues and an excessive amount of sort of checking as well. It was like three different sets of being searched and showing your ticket and all that. And it's like, how many times do you need to do this? I'm still the same person, do you know what I mean? I actually had a laugh. You know me mad flags like gone viral, and everyone took the piss out of the Graham Souness on it, which is great. You know, my missus is absolutely made up. She loves it. She said all publicity is good publicity.
Absolutely, mate.
But I had to unfurl that in some separate section and show it to some copper, you know, to see whether it was like something that could.
Did he ask you who it was on the flag?
No. But, no, what was funny, so I unfurl it and like, you know, one says to the other like offensive, and the other one was like, no. And then he went to me, 1984, and I went, yeah. And he was like, chuck me hand, and I mean, he was sound.
Was he?
Yeah,
Nice
he was dead sound. I mean, look, this was our experience. Maybe other people had different ones, and you can only talk about your own, can't you? But we had a really good experience. I've never been to Rome before. I love the city. I'm definitely going to go back and have another look.
It's a belter, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
really
a
good.
Yeah.
You know, beautiful city, amazing history at every turn. And yeah, I mean, we said across our other content about Angelo Consoli, who got in touch with us and said he wanted to do something between the sets of fans, if you like, something positive, something around or something for Sean Cox and his family. It ended up being a bit mad, I've got to be honest with you. So he got in touch with the president of the Capitoline, I probably said that wrong, assembly, essentially like the sort of the Council of Rome, and the president, Marcello De Vito. He was there. We got taken into these like grand chambers. There's loads of media there, and they handed over like this piece of artwork from 1984 from this sort of friendship visit between Liverpool and Rome ahead of the final, again to try and improve relations, again to try and do something positive. And they've handed us this artwork plus also a medal from the city of Rome to hand over to Sean Cox's family, and a copy of a motion which basically pledges to help Sean Cox in any way that the city of Rome can, and also to try and crack down more on the violence around the ultras and that sort of thing. So it was fantastic for us at the Anfield app to be a part of that. We're going to get that over to Liverpool Football Club, and they're going to pass that on to Sean's family. So as I say, a pleasure to be a part of that, and you know, big thanks to Angelo, and big thanks to Marcelo De Vito, the president of the, I'll say it wrong again, Capitoline Assembly. I thought it was a really good gesture and something really nice. And some people, as ever, in the cesspit of the internet, have been a little bit cynical about it. Honestly, this is a good thing. Angelo as well was brilliant. He's a Roma fan himself. So is the president that I mentioned there. They wanted to do something positive. They wanted to emphasise that there are a lot of people in Rome that are very sad about what happened to Sean, just like we are. They want him to get better. The ultras don't represent them, and they don't represent the city of Rome, and they wanted to get that message across. So all that was good. We're hoping to say a little bit more on that soon, and hopefully get some media coverage for that, because it's a nice story to emerge from all this, and hopefully something that at some point his family will be able to appreciate. But their concerns will be with Sean right now. Okay, in the news. It looks like Steven Gerrard is going to Rangers. I mean, me and you talked about this the other day, so maybe we don't need to go into it at length. But he's decided to take the baton and run with it, if you like, on this one. Apparently, his first purchase, you might not know this because you only just walked in and I haven't told you. I want to see what your reaction is. His first purchase could be Martin Skirtle.
Really? Wow. Wow.
But look,
nothing like making things hard for yourself, is it? I'm sure Martin would be. I'm sure Skate would be okay in Scotland, I think.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, he was up and down, wasn't he? At Anfield, he had in particular one very good season. And as you say, I'm sure he'd be all right there. But you could see a lot of Liverpool connected players go up there potentially.
I think if you go into, I think any manager, certainly new managers, they're going to look to what they know, aren't they? So you can certainly see a scenario where Gerrard's on the phone to Jurgen about maybe potentially taking one or two players on loan, certainly young players. He's obviously working with some young players. I think the general consensus seems to have changed the last few days. I mean, from my point of view, I still think it's a risk, and I would have liked them to keep doing what he's doing, keep learning his trade. But at the end of the day, the pull's obviously been too big in terms of an opportunity to manage a big club, and Rangers are a big club. There's no doubt about that, albeit playing in a league that is nowhere near as competitive as the Premier League. I think he will have got assurances that there's going to be money there to compete, because I think the one thing that's been apparent over recent years is that Celtic's dominance both on and off the pitch is huge, and Rangers they've got nowhere near them, and certainly off the pitch. If they're going to kind of put those things right in terms of challenging and competing again, they've got to be able to be competitive in terms of buying players and attracting players. I think Gerrard's name will mean that people will want to play for him. His standard in the game is huge, and I don't know whether you caught it, but Bellamy and Danny Murphy, you probably were still in Rome actually, were talking about it on the debate show the other night, and both spoke about him really well. But Murphy gave an overview of what Gerrard was like kind of as a young player, and he kind of grew into the role of captain, and then he kind of saw that maybe he had the potential to be a manager. But at first, it was interesting to say that he was quite a nervous person, Gerrard, in terms of those team talks from a captain's point of view in the dressing room. He was quite shy, and he didn't feel like he could get up in front of people and almost kind of direct them in terms of what they had to do on the pitch. But by the time Bellamy arrived, it was a different case altogether. He properly grew into the role.
13, 14, I remember, when he was doing media interviews and stuff like that, and you could see there was like a steely, competitive spirit about him, and he realised that, doing the media was part of part of the game, if you like. And perhaps he's done, he's done his year with the under-18s. He has got that competitive spirit, and maybe he just thinks, do you know what, why not? Let's give it a go, let's have a go. And it's quite a low bar to improve upon. I think most people, fair people, and this will include Rangers fans, I would think, as much as they want to overturn Celtic and all that, they're going to know how far ahead Celtic are. Of course, in terms of finances, in terms of pull, in terms of the squad they've already got, in terms of the manager they've got as well. Whether you like Rodgers or not, he's more experienced than Gerrard right now. So perhaps it's a bit of a low bar, and if he goes there and he's not ripping up trees, he can simply say this is a hard job.
I think there's got to be a realism about it in terms of expectation. I think one of the things Bellamy did kind of talk about as well, and you'd obviously expect Gerrard to get better at being a captain in terms of growing into the role as he gets older, because it doesn't come natural to everyone. But Bellamy was talking about, in terms of him being a manager, as he got older, you could see that Gerrard was very, very astute in terms of picking up little bits of tactical knowledge in team meetings, and he'd then be able to relay that to players in a really articulate way. And I think that's important, in terms of being able to give direction and show leadership, and for players to buy into what you're trying to do, you've got to be able to deliver those messages. And I think there's no doubt, even just from watching Gerrard on kind of BT and stuff, he can see he's really interested in the kind of the technical and the tactical side of the game. So, I mean, I wish him all the best. As I say, I think it's not something that, when I first heard about it, I thought he should maybe look to do. But the more I think about it, the more I can understand why he would be attracted to it. And you just hope that if it doesn't work out for him, that it doesn't kind of, not necessarily spell the end for his managerial career, because I'm sure he'll get other opportunities, but you don't want him to be, I think you used the word the other day, tainted or tarnished by it. You don't want that. I know Paul Gascoigne was talking on Sky Sports this morning. Obviously, he played for Rangers, and he did say that the Rangers fans, more than likely, they do back you. They give you the backing. So hopefully they will give him the time that he'll need, because he can't be expected to go in there and say win the league in year one. Given where they are, it would be some turnaround, wouldn't it, to kind of go in and suddenly take the title away from Celtic. So I think there's got to be that understanding that it's going to take a little bit of time.
I think there's an understanding up there, certainly from what I've heard, that the squad isn't the best and it needs a bit of an overhaul. So yeah, all the best, Stevie. I mean, I just wonder what happens now about this interview you're doing with the rap lad. Is that off now? Let us know, mate. Okay, just quickly then. I mean, it's mad to be saying just quickly, but we've got Chelsea on Sunday. and it's also it's gone a little bit by the wayside. But this is actually a very important game. I mean, we could do with top four not going to the wire, not going to the final day, and when you're looking at it now, I was looking at it before, and I think maybe I've been a bit blasé and a bit cocky about it, just because we've been so wrapped up in the European Cup, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're getting excited about, winning a big, massive trophy. But in the meantime, those draws against Everton, West Brom and Stoke actually mean that, if Chelsea overturn us there, all of a sudden we're favourites to finish fifth. Going into the last day, and well, that's obviously not ideal. I mean, they've got a game in hand on us. They've got Huddersfield at home and Newcastle away after us. And actually, I was looking at the results as well, and I sort of had it in my head of, they haven't been that good now for a while. But actually, they lose to Spurs at the start of April, then they drew with West Ham at home. Yeah. Then they beat Southampton and Burnley in the league, and Southampton again in the FA Cup semi. So they're doing okay. They've been picking up some points, and it's actually a little bit of a worry, this now.
You're right to say it's a huge game. I mean, I've watched Chelsea quite closely in kind of recent weeks, months, and I think you're right to say, obviously, results have certainly improved since that Spurs game. I've not been blown away by performances on the pitch. I think there's still quite a few questions there for the manager. He doesn't seem to know who to go with from a centre-forward point of view. He's switching between Morata and Giroud. I think he'll probably go with Giroud on the weekend, to be honest. I think he's probably the one who's shown a little bit more at the minute. I just think we can get at them defensively, though, as well. Again, he's chopped and changed a lot in recent weeks in terms of his kind of back line. And I think we can put the European Cup final to bed now, hopefully players can start to kind of refocus. I think we said under the shows, it's totally understandable that we've had our focus kind of switched a little bit. When you've got a game as big as the Roma one, and before that the 2 games against City, it's understandable, especially when you've got a smallish squad, that players are going to protect themselves, and it's hard not to think about those huge football matches. But now it has to all be about the league and putting that top 4 to bed. You're right, you don't want it to go down to Brighton last game of the season. Even though I think we'll beat Brighton, you don't want the added pressure. And if Jurgen wants to make a few changes ahead of the European Cup final, then it allows them to do that, doesn't it? Or if there's maybe 1 or 2 who are carrying knocks. So I think I'm confident, Robbo, to be honest. I think, I'm not saying we're going to go there and batter them, but I think there's more than enough in this Liverpool side to say and to suggest that we can go there and get a result, whether it be a draw, whether it be a win. I think we're in for a really good game now, and it'll be interesting to see what he does about the side. 1 or 2 players, they've given everything over in Rome. I know the kind of result in the night wasn't quite what we were looking for, but in terms of efforts and that kind of physical but also mental tiredness, you would expect there's a few there that are just a little bit kind of maybe below par. So does he change it? I think you'll certainly see someone like Nathaniel Klein get minutes, because I think now he's got to start thinking about, am I going to need some of these players? So Trent's been great, but it probably wasn't his greatest night against Rome, but he looked like he was struggling a little bit. He's a young lad, he's going to have games where it goes really well for him, but there'll be games where it doesn't quite go so well, and we've seen that against United away, the Roma game the other night. So I think Klein probably gets minutes, and maybe he looks to one or two others to give them a rest if he needs to, but undoubtedly he'll want to go as strong as he can, because he'll know that this is huge. Now we've got to put this to bed, and obviously in terms of who we're playing against, Chelsea are at a decent side, so you can't take anything for granted.
Yeah, in terms of previewing that game then, the Friday show from the Anfield app is already out there on the subscriber feed. There will be a team talk show where we watch Jurgen Klopp's press conference today and then have a chat about that and go in a little bit more depth about the Chelsea game. City Talk also out there today. That's free to listen to, obviously, on City Talk when it goes out live, and then later as a podcast. Also AFQ out there today, the madness of that, answering questions from Twitter about absolutely anything, you know, whether you'd rather have teeth for pubes or pubes for teeth. We had loads of nice feedback for our... I don't know, teeth for pubes would be quite painful, wouldn't it? Anyway, we had loads of nice feedback for our coverage in Rome as well, so it's a good time to subscribe, and thanks very much for everyone who's been really kind about the stuff we put out from Rome. We put a lot of effort into that, so, you know, pleasing to hear. Anyway, yeah, so theanfieldapp.com/subscribe if you're not listening to our subscription podcast already. Anyway, okay, be back in a minute for a quick look at the papers. Okay, the day's back pages then, what are they talking about on here? Arsenal, obviously lost in the semi-final second leg against Atletico in the Europa League, 1-0. It's very, very sad to leave the club like that. It will take some time to recover, says Arsene Wenger there. I mean, we've done Arsenal to death, really, and I don't think this really sort of adds anything. It's all a bit sad, and it's a shame to see Wenger that way. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, yeah, there was something else on that very page. So with... You know, we've got the build-up now to this big final. Yeah. We've got Real Madrid. We know that they've got superstars in the ranks and they're capable of this, that and the other. What I quite like is there's just little bits of a sense of a cockiness I'm getting out of them. So, you know, there's the 13th T-shirt thing that they put on, which suggested a little bit of that. There was a good piece from, I think it was Sid Lowe in The Guardian, where he was sort of rounding up what all the... Because, you know, they're mad for football over there, aren't they? And they've got, like, all these papers devoted just to, you know, just to Madrid and that sort of stuff. So he'd had a read of them, and there was one paper that said it could be the most one-sided final ever. I wonder whether some of that starts to creep into the actual players' minds. I hope so. I quite like the idea of Liverpool going into it feeling like they're the underdog, because it feels like that would be good for, you know, Klopp's team talk and that sort of stuff. But Ramos now as well, I mean, you know, there's maybe a bit of a spin on this. Well, in fact, there definitely is. I mean, the headline here in the Mirror is Mo chance. And it says, Ramos claims Liverpool star is nothing special as war of words starts ahead of Kiev showdown. That's not quite strictly true when you actually read what he says. He says he's just one of 11 players. And he says, you know, that they're used to facing big stars, good players, and that, you know, but they basically say they're not fearing Mo Salah, and I think that's the right thing to say. You know, you wouldn't expect anything else, but it's being twisted and turned into a bit of a headline. What Ramos also says is we can't be arrogant, but we can be confident. I mean, what do you feel about seeing these types of comments? Do you get that sense of maybe a little bit of arrogance?
Possibly. I think they've been so successful in recent years, it's probably hard for it not to seep in a little bit in terms of that confidence, that arrogance. I think it's fantastic if they start to underplay us in terms of what we can do as a football team. I've seen quite a lot said about, you know, Liverpool and whether we could, you know, tear them apart because of how they played against Bayern Munich. And I watched both of those games, and I thought, you know, Madrid were quite poor at the back. You can definitely get at their back line. I think their midfielders allow you to run off the back of them as well. So there's definitely opportunities for Liverpool to kind of cause them damage. But I think equally they would have looked at the Roma game, certainly the second leg, and they'll have thought to themselves, we can get at this Liverpool team as well. So I think, you know, you can make a case for both there. It'll be interesting to see whether, I think from our point of view, you hope we go there and play without fear, you know, because I think one thing they have got in their advantage is that they're used to playing in these kind of games. You know, they've been there, they've done it, they know how to get over the line in these type of football matches. That's not something we've been able to do, because we've obviously not got too many finals in recent years. But hopefully the players don't get consumed by kind of, you know, fear on the big stage, and they just go out and play with a bit of freedom. And I think that's what Jurgen will be trying to get them to that point in terms of let's not worry about it. You know, you deserve to be there, and we absolutely deserve to be in this final. I've seen a lot of other fans talk about Liverpool in the sense of it's the luckiest run, they've played no one, all this. I mean, we've played and beat the favourites twice. You know, we beat them on their own patch. We beat City at Anfield as well.
Roma beat Chelsea. Roma beat Barcelona.
And we're going to have to beat the most successful team ever in this tournament to win the trophy. So
they made up a load of them trophies.
Well,
at the start,
the first five are bullshit, by the way.
Yeah, they were playing like a team of gardeners from Hungary or something.
But the narrative that's been created is ridiculous. Liverpool absolutely deserve to be where they are, and that's in the final of the European Cup. And I think we should go into it feeling confident. I think if there's one fear for me at the minute, it's just about keeping some of those players who we know are our danger men, keeping them fit, Robbo, because that's the worry. You know, there's not a lot kind of backing up some of those top boys. Yeah. You know, you certainly your front three. You know, you don't want anything to happen to any of them because then that does create a bit of a problem. And you're also hoping maybe the likes of Sean, Lallana, could they push themselves a little bit?
Was in the squad, wasn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't on the bench. He wasn't quite fit enough. I mean, he's not played much football, so in terms of getting much from him, I don't know what he'd be able to give you, maybe 20 minutes or something like that.
The whole squad must be like living in an oxygen chamber or something like that because, you know, there is a need for legs there, isn't there? But
yeah.
I mean, our front three, just in the Champions League, has scored 29.
Yeah.
And I think what you said, the key thing there for me and what I've written down here is that, you know, there shouldn't be like a reverence about Liverpool's approach to playing Madrid. We shouldn't be like, oh, it's Madrid and they've got all these superstars. It should be that a team of 11 players, let's get out there and smash them and get it stuck into them. Because, you know, when we played them under Rodgers, one of the things that really got up a lot of people's nose is the fact that it was almost, you know, wave the white flag. Oh, it's Real Madrid, isn't it? And, you know, wind back to the Rafa years, you know, we do them, don't we?
Absolutely. We go there and Benayoun gets the header 1-0.
And then we do them at home, and we do them well at home. And it's like, you know, you've got to sort of... It's got to be a mentality of just another football match, hasn't it? Basically?
Yeah, and I have to say, and it's a different game, but when I watched Real Madrid against Spurs at Wembley, Spurs did get amongst them, and Real Madrid struggled to live with the intensity that Spurs kind of gave on the night, if you like. You know, they were getting in amongst them, they had runners from midfield, and no matter what you think about this Madrid team, there's one thing that is for certain, is that they're not the same side that they were last year or even the year before when they've won those 2 European Cups. You know, they are a team now where a lot of them are either approaching 30 or in the 30s, so there's definitely been a little bit of a dip, and you've seen that in the league of the season. So there's no doubt if Liverpool kind of play to their best, we've got every chance of beating them.
Come on, win number 6 for me, Liverpool. How good would that be? That's if we can ever get there. And yeah, that's been Talking Reds. Anyone got 10 grand to lend me for an hotel?